Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are honored to have our good dear friend Randy Swaim joining us. He's a Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach, also founder of Coaching for Relevance, based out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's internationally known for his company, helping so many people with leadership and coaching them, and also as a pilot, former military, author, doctor eventually, and movie star now. So, anyway, back to you, darling. Great to see you here as always, a leader in true form and who does a lot, never sits still, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what, there's not too many days where I'm just sitting around wondering kind of thing. So,
I'm
and that and
sure.
that's good. That's good. So yeah,
Well,
yeah.
welcome, sweetheart. For those that may not know, just a little bit about this amazing work you do.
Okay. Well, for me, as you said, with the aspect of coaching and all that, even to pilots and to even youth programs over to local high school that I go in there about once a month and just talk to them, the students and everything, kind of thing on one class and everything. I bring the coaching perspective and the leadership perspective and bring out some insights that a lot of people don't think about, kind of thing, which is very, very key and important. And that, just a lot of that is what I'm doing, as you kind of implied. My autobiography is published on Amazon, and the Hollywood movie documentary about my life and journey that Hollywood completed is actually, if you think about it, is going to be made available to the public in one day, less than 2 months.
I hear it's
It's
amazing.
December 14th. Anybody in the public's going to be able to get it, have the DVD sent to them or whatever, kind of thing, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very humbled by a lot of this that has happened, and I've been sort of amazed because so much of it has been initiated and
Hmm.
recommended by people that knew me, that people that have connected with me and things of that nature, and so I'm just sort of humbled by that in more ways than anybody can imagine. But I've been told that the movie is really a great story and a needed story for a lot of people, and and a lot of value to it. So I've just appreciated what Hollywood has done and what it's going to be like once it's officially made to the public here in about less than 2 months.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for sharing that. Cannot wait. Like I said, I hear it's amazing. I haven't seen it personally, but I know people who have had eyes on it. So that's exciting stuff.
Cool.
What else is exciting in your world this week?
Well, you name it. Just everything that is happening is amazing to me, both in what I do with my aviation background and the military background, and I was so humbled by a lot of the people that I learned real leadership from, not because of anything they ever told me, but because what I saw in them. I've mentioned his name before. I'll just mention it one more time. But um, in 2001, I was driving to a car wash, and and the news person came on the radio and said, "Oh, and if anybody's interested, you'll notice that the for the first time in history, an Air Force officer has been approved as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff."
Huh.
And I went, "Really?" And then they said General Richard B. Myers, and I almost crashed my car because it was like,
Ah,
yeah, wow,
ah,
wow, wow, and 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 I was so amazed. He was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 2001 up to about 2005, and I so appreciate him. And I'll tell you, he was my squadron commander at the 335th Chiefs with the 4th TAC Fighter Wing back when I was there. And one of the things that I tell people, I included this in my autobiography, and I mentioned it briefly in the movie documentary, that he is one of the he is one of the people that I've learned the most from on leadership, and not from anything that he ever told me, but from what I observed and how he led his people and did that effectively and stuff. So it's just amazing. It's just part of my background and part of my journey. I'm amazed at what I've learned along the way and on all that. But again, not because of just something somebody told me, but because of what I observed, what I experienced, what I saw, what I envisioned, and all that. And with General Richard B. Myers, that was a big aspect of it. So I was so honored. And I flew with him a number of times, and we flew together, reasonably often and stuff. But it just I was so honored to know him. And there's some other people that I was very honored to know just because of who they were and who they became. And that'll be a little bit of a touch aspect into the subject for today, but it's just part of the adventure of my journey. And like I say, some of this is all going to be included in the movie documentary because it is part of my growth. It's part of my journey. A little bit of my
Mm-hmm.
journey of becoming and all that. And so, yeah, been pretty neat.
Awesome. Always a pleasure hearing your stories, your life journey, and the fact you just love helping people. Who helps you, darling?
You name it. Like I said, because I had to overcome a lot. As you know, the
Mm-hmm.
the title of the movie and the autobiography is Bringing Freedom to Potential, and the subtitle is A True Story of Overcoming and Soaring Above the Storms of Life. And there's uh, I won't say too much about anybody, but like I say, the big thing that I learned from is when I saw people that were real professional and real leaders saw what they did and how they did it and what I saw in the reaction of other people. And when I started kind of applying some of that in my journey and, seeing the reaction of people when they experienced that, that was so positive. Uh, a lot of that is what made my journey of development really come on scene and reach radical results.
Perfect. And what radical results are we talking about for today with everyone?
Well, what I was going to do, because some of what we just talked about is an enlightened part of what I was going to go here today. And what I was going to do is talk about, focus on strategic planning and strategic, vision and thinking in your group, in your company, in your team. But I'm going to bring a certain aspect of it that sometimes people don't think about. And what I will simply say is to get it going, what I will simply say is that, most people, when you talk about strategic planning, they just look down, the manager looks down, and everybody else goes, okay, yeah, the manager looks down and says, okay, by the end of this next year, we want to have this amount of income that's come in, or
Wow.
we wanted to reach out and grow and get these people or this company or this group, as part of our clients, and we want to grow and become this so we can just do this and make more money and all of that sort of stuff. All those kind of things of increasing our goals to this point so that a year from now we reach that and all that kind of stuff. That is how most people tend to um, think in terms of the strategic vision of what you want to accomplish. How you want to grow your company, how you want to earn more money, how you want to reach more radical results and things of that nature. And all of that is valid. All of that is okay. But there's another aspect of it that I'll throw out today that is aligned with what we were just talking about that a lot of people don't totally understand. Because what I'll say is if you think about what your goal is, your strategic goal for where you want this thing to become in a year or 2 years or whatever, kind of thing. One of the things you got to kind of think about is in order to do that, instead of just having rote superficial things, we want to, increase the money by 50% or whatever, kind of thing. Instead of doing that, you have to also think about in order to get there effectively, what do we need to do or grow or become further in our team? And you know what? in part, and this is something that a lot of managers don't really have a picture of so much for themselves, but part of the answer to that is, what is it that they miss?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that maybe they need to sort of think about and go forward in all of this? And what I'll say is that when you're talking about your team and growing your team, it's not just about telling them something and pointing fingers and say, you just do this, you just do this, you do that. That's superficial, and that's not what we're talking about. What we're
No.
talking about is growing your team so that they envision and they can see radical results that are possible that maybe somebody else didn't see, and can help our team make this work and everything. And one of the ways, one of the ways that you do that is, and one of the things that a good leader does is to model the behavior so that other people see what they're doing. Remember what I said about Colonel Richard B. Myers
No.
when he was a lieutenant colonel.
Mm-hmm.
I observed the incredible interaction that he had and how he dealt with his people. And that became a lot of what I built into my life, because I realized the value of it. I realized the benefit and what that was all about and everything. And and so I that's just sort of one example of that. But the bottom line is, if you're a manager and all you're doing is pointing fingers at your people and telling them what to do, guess what? That's something you need to change that. You need to grow that. You need to switch that. And guess what? One of the things that you need to do that is to include that in your strategic vision of what you need to do. It in order to get to radical results, sometimes you need to change your team a little bit. And that's not just people. And that's the superficial way that a lot of people will think about it and look at it, but it's about how you're connecting with each of your team members right now, how they're connecting together. And one of the things that I'll throw out, which is a key part of this, is, to what extent are you truly serving your people? And you know
Yeah.
what? What are you modeling that behavior so that they see it and they experience, and you see them actually serving each other, kind of thing, to make all of this happen? That's where a lot of the radical results can happen when you do that. And it's a key part of it. Like I say, there was a lot of sort of insidious ways that were not spoken out, but I saw, Colonel Myers do that in a number of aspects of how he did that. And it's not just, taking yourself out of the leadership role. No, it's not that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically modeling the serving of your people in such a way that they pick up, they see the value of it, and they start adapting it into how they're connecting with each other
No.
and what they're doing. And that is a key aspect of this. And it's and a lot of times that that doesn't mean you're just going to come over to them and point fingers and dictate to them. A lot of times what it means is you just have conversations with them and you get some exploring to go. And sometimes they may go, "Oh, you know what? Oh, this is probably what we need to do." And there's been a couple of times in my career as a leader where
Mm-hmm.
the conversation that we had, they came up with that, and I looked at them and I smiled and I said, "That's what I wanted you to do. You got it, buddy. You're awesome," kind of thing. And they said, "You know what? We'll do that. Yeah, there you go. Good, good," kind of thing. And there's a sense where, instead of you just dictating the superficial aspect of it, but you're generating their processing, their mental processing, and this is a sort of a neuroscience aspect of it, but you're generating their processing so that they come up with that picture of what's really valuable. And and all of that is so key, that the strategic vision on what you're trying to accomplish with your organization, or with your team, or the department that you're in control of, or whatever, is a lot more than just coming up with rote, go this way, earn this by the end of the year, whatever,
Yep.
anything like that. It's about how are you really, and by the way, how you're developing your people, it doesn't mean that you're going to fire 3 of them and hire 3 more replacements. Now, guess what? If somebody is unethical and illegal and all that, okay, yeah, that may be necessary kind of thing. But the bottom line is, for growing this, all, your team members, have to kind of develop that aspect of the serving, where they're actually are starting to serve each other as they're going forward and everything. And I'll share this quick quote. And this was a pastor that said it, but it's very aligned with what I'm saying here. And I'll just share the quote with you really quick. But he simply said, and this is very key when you talk about serving people. And I will say this before the quote: a number of the folks that I have worked with as a leader in aviation and over at DFW Airport and things like that, um, they have experienced my serving them in some respects and everything. And that doesn't mean you're throwing your hat in the in the trash and just you
Mm-hmm.
know whatever, but it means your leadership is serving your team and people. And it's amazing the relationships and the connections that I have with the number of people that have experienced that truly. That, dramatic things and dramatic
Yeah.
synergy can happen in your team when you do that well. But this quote is it's a very good quote that's centered in this, and it's simply this. I'll just share it very quickly here. But it just simply says that serving is not just an obligation. It's a privilege and a blessing. And you know what? A lot of people don't realize that, but you know what? When you're talking about serving,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you're taking your leadership and throwing it in the trash and just, okay, I can't be a leader
Yeah.
today. No, that's not what it is. It's you leading this aspect of what your team is doing and modeling it. So guess what? Going forward, even your people probably want to start bringing this into their relationship as they're working and everything. And that's just an aspect where amazing results can happen. But it's this aspect of when you're talking about, and again, just very quickly, um, that when you're talking about your strategic vision of going forward, it's one thing to say, okay, yeah, this is how we want to grow our company. This is how we want to grow our return and the money we get and benefits and all of that sort of stuff. Yep, all that is part of it. No two ways about it. That's a strategic aspect of it. But the other part of this also has to do with how are you really connecting with your teams, and to what extent do you need to rethink and reapply how
Mm-hmm.
you're doing that so that you bring your team to the point where automatically the results are even further ahead of what you
Wow.
thought they would be. And
Mm-hmm.
because the team is working so much better together with vision and all of that. And so it's just a key point that a lot of people kind of don't often think about when they, a lot of people in today's world, they think, what if I'm a leader, my job is to just tell people what to do. No, sorry. No, it's a lot deeper than that. When you're talking about being a real leader, you're talking about really what are you modeling for your team, which is going to bring them up to doing things in a much more dramatic and successful way, and all of that. And so again, I just sort of, I know we're getting close, and I'll just finish this off with that quote one more time. And it's just this aspect of I really appreciated the way this pastor said it, but he said serving is not just an obligation. It doesn't mean you just got to shut your brain off and go do that. No, serving is not just an obligation. It's a privilege and a blessing. And it's just a good point on that when you're talking about um, this aspect. And the real important part of this is when you're talking about the strategic thinking of your organization, of your team, where you're going. It's one thing to say, okay, yeah, we want to increase our results to this amount, we want to increase our return this amount and all that sort of stuff. All that's valid. We want to increase our clients by this much. All that is totally valid or whatever. Okay. But the other part of it also is the aspect of how are we going to, in order to get there and maybe even go higher and further than that in the same time period? Uh, how are we going to really grow our team? What do we need to be thinking about in that? And how can we do that for our team and to make the team members so appreciative about being with us? It's not just about money; it's about the experience and all of that sort of stuff. So this serving your team members and as a leader, even serving your people to the extent that you can and stuff. All of those is just part of this aspect of serving and all that. And that's one aspect on how you can get it to a higher level where everybody is just so appreciative of being on the team together. And guess what? When you sense that, that means that the synergy is increasing. You know, the synergy and the oneness is increasing. And all of that can happen if you're sort of focusing on this other part also. So I just tell, give people a thought that when you're talking about strategic vision, strategic planning, and things like that. Yes, all this stuff of this is where we want to grow, this is what we want to do. All that's part of it. Yep. But the other part of it is, how are we going to be different? What do we need to be a little bit different to really get us even further than what we were thinking? And what's holding us back maybe right now for a little bit, kind of thing. And giving some thought to that, and really, as you go forward, what do you need to do to improve that and to overcome the that part of it that might be holding you back? You never know. And so it's just something to think about. Like I said, when you talk about the serving, it's all related to that strategic vision, but strategic aspects of who, not only just what do we want to accomplish, but how do we want to get there? What do we want to be different to really
Yeah.
make that easier and more clear and all of that sort of stuff? All those are of factors that sometimes you gotta be thinking about.
Got it. We still have more time, sweetie. We still got another 5 minutes, so keep it
Okay.
going. What else you got?
Oh, okay. Well, basically that was largely it. But I will say this, that like I said, I will say this, that there are several aspects about this that that uh, that I've experienced in my journey and in my career and stuff, and also the expertise in neuroscience that I'm aware of. You know what? Guess what? When you get somebody that is uh, you're treating them in such a way where their neurotransmitters are releasing the chemicals that really kind of make them feel like one with people and
Hmm.
stuff like that. Guess what? Those, that amazing things can happen. And you know what? If you see one person that may be interacted with vindictively by a customer or a client, and you see two other members join him and mold all that out so that it's not a problem anymore,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, that can be huge, but that doesn't happen just because it's something that you say we want to do as a team, but it's how people do it automatically. And I think I shared this with you before. I won't go into the whole thing, but there was a time when uh, a lady that I was dating, now this was about 30 years ago, kind of thing. Um, but we came out of a dance place over in Dallas, and there were a couple of thugs that were threatening this one guy and his girlfriend. And I told my girlfriend, I said, I tell you what, get in the car and lock the door and don't come out until I tell you to. And her eyes were this little big. I think you probably heard me tell this story before. And she got in the car and locked the door, and I went over there. And basically, when I went over there, the
Hmm.
big thug had the guy like this, and I uh,
Wow.
grabbed his hand and I just twisted his hand so I know he
Hmm.
couldn't hit me, and I spun the other guy out and stuff. But the way that I interacted with it, most people try to yell, scream, shout, whatever to make everybody else scared. What I didn't is I just was very positive. I was very um, centered, but I did tell him, I said, the fight's over.
Yeah.
and everything. And it was. And the guy's girlfriend was so appreciative when it was all over. I saw her kind of a couple of tears coming out of her eye and stuff, and I walked over to where she was standing by their car, and I said, "You okay?" And she looked at me and she said, "Yes." And she
Oh.
looked at me and she said, "Thank you." But you know
Oh.
what? That was not because I threatened, I dictated, or anything
Yeah.
like that. I just brought the right amount to stop it. And you know what? When you're talking about strategic planning going forward with your team,
Yep.
in what ways do you need to think about how your team needs to interact and how you need to model true serving of them? And what that picture of that particular day was a good picture of me serving that girl and her boyfriend,
Oh.
and that's the way it sort of came across. And she was really appreciative of that. But bottom line is, it's this aspect of not just, yeah, we're going to go out here, and then, what a lot of people do today, and you probably have seen or heard one or two, maybe sometime along the way, I don't know. But what a lot of people have done today, they say, okay, well, we want to increase this by 30% this year. And all the rest of the year, all they're doing is pointing their fingers and dictating to their people
Yep.
and threatening their people, saying, hey, we're supposed to go to 30%. So, if that's your only focus, you're not getting the job done.
Yep.
And as you go forward, what is it also within your team that makes it something that is beneficial and results and is centered in this aspect of serving each other? And as a leader, are you modeling that? Are you serving your team in a way that they sort of understand and see how to do that with each other? And so it's just something to think about when you're talking about the serving on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Randy, how can we contact you if we would like to?
I'll tell you what, as you know, if you go to my website, coachingforrelevance.com, you can, on the very first, on the homepage, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it has my email on it, and it has my cell phone on it. And as I've shared with you before, Jill, you know this, they they don't have to worry about me kind of, I'm not going to give them real cold, sales pitches or anything
Yep.
like that. If they just want to have a chat, we can do that. But if they have a need, yeah, we'll come up with something. And
Perfect.
and all that. And then one of the things that'll be good, as you know, that as the movie gets closer to coming out in December, uh, they're going to be flying me up to New York to go into a studio and um, interview me about the movie and everything. And I think you said last time maybe that may be an opportunity where we can shake hands and see
Yeah,
each
there
other, kind
better
of thing.
be. I cannot wait.
I'll
Thank
tell you
you.
what, I'll look forward to that, my friend. I
Same
appreciate your
here. Looking
friendship for
forward to it. Okay,
about the
sweetheart.
last 3 years together. So,
Oh, well, thank
oh
you
man.
so much, sweetheart. You have a fantastic day. See you soon. And always love speaking with you. And thank you for being here, always solid and a true team leader and our podcast professional of the year. Thanks so much, darling. Talk
Well,
soon.
I tell you what, I appreciate it. It's a pleasure being with you, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.